boyfriend Ryan and my dad, and then hopefully my friend should be showing up. But so yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me, and we're going to get started. So before we begin, I'd like to point you guys to the QR code on my title slide, and if you guys can pull out your devices and scan that QR code, it'll bring you to a handout, and it'll just be easier for you guys to see some of the visuals that I'll be talking about in my presentation. If you guys have the app, the Google Docs app, it should be more compatible and easier to do it. I'll give you guys like a second here to scan that. Not doing.
When Dr. Ewing has it, then you know you can move on. This level.
Does it work?
That's probably me.
Are you videoing?
That would be awesome for me anyway.
Okay,
I got it.
thank you. All right, so Tom, if you could send that out, that'd be great. Thank you. So a little bit about me. I grew up in a huge Penn State family. My mom and my aunt were both Penn State education majors. So here's a little picture of me and my cousins who all went to Penn State. And as you can see, my family is super important to me, and they have shaped me into the person I am today. And I'm super grateful that they are so supportive of every decision I make and any challenge that I might be faced with. They are always supportive. And I just love being outdoors. That's kind of what brought me into the agricultural field. I didn't grow up in an ag ed program. I didn't have an FFA chapter or a 4-H program near me. So just coming to Penn State was my first introduction to agriculture, and I loved it. And I also love teaching. So just being able to mold those both into a major was perfect for me. So that is kind of why I'm here today to share my story with you guys. So the first question I'm going to be answering is, who do I aspire to be as a teacher? So my teaching philosophy. The first one is authentic experiences. So this is done through FFA and SAE. So I really want to take advantage of the FFA and SAE opportunities that Ag Ed has to offer to the students and to a future agricultural program that I will be a part of. The second one is collaboration. And this can be done through group work, and something that I learned in my 412 class is being a connected educator. So just connecting with professionals in the field and getting to work with other people to get those great ideas from people who are actually currently in the field. And then my third one is just being a lifelong learner. And that goes for my students and for me. So being able to adapt the mindset of always being a lifelong learner and encouraging my students to expand their inquiry beyond the classroom and into the workforce or post-high school. And hopefully all three of those will lead to student success. So for classroom management, I have created 3 posters here. One is on classroom procedures. The second is my expectations of students. And the third is the consequences that those students will face if they are not adhering to my classroom procedures or expectations. So they're a little small, but hopefully you guys can kind of see them on the screen here. My first one is to always work on bell work, and that creates the sense of business-like behavior. So as soon as the students come into the classroom, they're able to sit down and work on their bell work. Always wear proper PPE, so staying safe, like adhering to safety procedures when in the lab. Technological devices are big. We kind of can't avoid them in the classroom, so just making sure students are adhering to when we're supposed to be using them is one of my procedures. Always keeping your workspace clean and keeping your work environment nice and tidy so that you can learn in the environment. And then the last one is exit ticket, what kind of ties in with the business-like behavior of keeping your procedures in your classroom in a task-like manner. So I'm not going to go through the rest of these, but as you can see, the consequences that students can face if they are not adhering to my procedures or expectations would be the first rule break. First rule break is just a verbal warning, and having that conversation with students like, hey, this is not okay, and you are not following to the classroom procedures or expectations. The second one would be to sit them out of the lab activity or the activity or lab and having them realize okay, if I break this rule, I can't participate in this fun lab with my peers and get that hands-on experience. And the third one would be a written warning and an alternative assignment. So students will not be allowed to participate in these lab activities and will have to sit out until they could show to me that they are able to rejoin the class. So this is my model program curriculum. As you can see, I would like it to fall under 3 different subjects. The first one would be animal science, the second plant science, and then the third ag mechanics. So all of these different pathways would adhere to the agricultural, food, and natural resources standards, and then they would just lead and build up off of each other for the 4 years. So as you can see, plant science, you would take plant science 2, then go into floriculture, and then take greenhouse management as your fourth year. So for a course breakdown, if a student were to do take the animal science pathway and then take the veterinary science class, some of the units that I would love to be able to teach in this class are animals in society, animals in research, small animal care and then large animal care, animal nutrition and digestion, animal behavior, and then vet medicine and careers. So these would be the different units I would cover in this course. So for my lab integration, I had the wonderful opportunity to work with my dad in the shop in my backyard and practice those 350 skills I learned with Dr. Ewing. And I made a letter key holder, and you could just like put your little keys. Oh, it's actually right here. You could put mount it to the wall and hang up your keys and put letters in there. So I thought you could incorporate that into like a wood shop or woodworking class, and it was under $15, so that'd be a great student project. So for my next assignment we had to complete, I made an animal science lab on SketchUp, and SketchUp is not the most friendly modeling thing, but I had a lot of fun actually kind of envisioning what I would like my future classroom to look like. So as you can see, I incorporated like very important safety equipment that you would need in the classroom. So I have like an eye wash station and a first aid cabinet in the back. And then this would just be like kind of an overview visual of what the classroom would look like. So for FFA and SAE integration, they tie into the 3-circle model of Ag Ed. And how I would love to accomplish this in my future Ag program is to, for FFA, have my students dive deep into those CDEs and LDs so that they are getting involved in their, or thinking about their futures in a manner through different opportunities. And then community involvement is super big. So with FFA, getting them involved in the community and benefiting like the people around them. And then for SAE, I would like them to do projects or get involved in like a work environment where they are focusing on career skills and gaining those skills prior to actual employment after high school. And then I have a video I made here with my fellow cohort members on recruitment.
Hi there! We are the Happy Valley High School Agricultural Education Program, and we're so excited to meet all of you. First things first, my name is Miss Cockle, and here at Happy Valley, I teach our ag mechanics and our food science courses.
And hi there, my name is Miss McHenry, and I teach the agricultural business classes as well as the aquaponics.
And last but not least, hi there, I'm Miss Crowley, and I love to teach our students about the plant science and animal science courses here at the Happy Valley High School. And here at Happy Valley School, we offer many exciting courses for every student to take if they're interested in agriculture, and we're going to highlight those courses in this video.
Hey guys, welcome to our aquaponics course. Here we have one of our students, Gabby, feeding our class fish. And some of the topics we cover in this course are life underwater, which are one of the Sustainable Development Goals, and we also talk about hydroponics and fish identification. So yeah, we have a lot of fun in this course getting to play around with fish in the aquaponics system.
Within our Ag Mech course at Happy Valley, we cover topics such as small gas engines,
welding, woodworking, and plumbing. Here we have some of our students identifying common household tools. Here at Happy Valley High School, we also offer a plant science class in which we talk about the different parts of a plant, identify the plants such as a coleus or different types of vines and orchids. Those are just a couple of the examples of plants that we handle here. In the wintertime, we also grow poinsettias for Christmas. We use that as a fundraiser through our FFA. The students have the opportunity to research about those poinsettias as well for SAE opportunities. But here, this is an opportunity for students to be able to handle live things. Here at Happy
So you guys got a little taste of what recruitment would look like for our future ag program. So just making sure that all students are aware, not even just ag students, every student is aware of the many different opportunities that they can take advantage of by being in the agricultural program, whether that's through just classroom instruction and participating in those awesome hands-on labs, or through FFA and SAE, which is later talked about in this video, but for our purposes, we're not going to show that. And so yeah, we're gonna move on here. So a community-based student of instruction that I would love to be able to incorporate during my student teaching experience at Ole Valley is one based on Pennsylvania's pollinators. So I'm teaching an ag environmental science course, and within this course, I am teaching a whole unit on wildlife. So talking about endangered species and the effect that they have on Pennsylvania's pollinators, the effects that Pennsylvania's pollinators have on our environment, and incorporating that with endangered species would be something I'd love to do. So to kind of get the community involved, we could have a PA Game Commission guest speaker come in and talk about different careers that students could get involved in, or different projects that students could kind of do in their local community to get everyone involved and aware of these issues in Pennsylvania. And so the artifact that students can build is a pollinator garden. So that's kind of just like a little picture, but this is just a garden that has plants in them that attract pollinators, and it's just good for the overall environment and like the local farms because we are getting those pollinators back to the environment and just nourishing them and making sure that their environment is protected. So that is what the community-based unit of instruction I would like to incorporate in the spring. So my next question is, what experiential educational opportunities have I engaged in to become a better ag educator? So some courses of impact. My first one would be educational theory and policy. And within this course, I really learned about the United States education system and how it is funded on a local level and how that kind of affects an agricultural education program, like the funding of that. And just learning about the different policies and theories that go into teaching students. The next one would be workforce education and development. This course really taught me about individualizing my instruction and making sure that I'm reaching those diverse students and diverse learners in a manner where they are learning to the best of their ability. And my third one would be agriculture and extension 311. Once again, because I didn't come from that strong ag background, this class really taught me what it means to be an FFA advisor and do those SAE projects with students. And to be quite frank, I didn't know much of the terminology related to agricultural education. So this class really, really opened my eyes to all the different opportunities that students have and how I could be a good advisor for those students in the future. So my example assignment would be from 311, and I did an SAE management plan. So if you guys are in that handout, there's a link to that, and it's kind of a long document, but it's just an example of one of the assignments I completed. And this taught me how to be an advisor for those students and how to implement an SAE program into my future ag program. So some certifications I have acquired this past semester to get myself prepared to teach in the spring are CPR, First Aid, and AED through American Red Cross, and Google Educator Level 1 certification. And then National Safe Tractor Machinery Operations, so that I could kind of incorporate all three of those certifications and make sure that my students are safe in the environment that they're learning in. So for some professional development, During my years at Penn State, I have been participating as the Pennsylvania Junior Academy of Science through judging. So I participated in this competition in high school, but being back and getting to judge it, I learned how to use a rubric, and I got connected with educators who are currently in the field, and I got to learn how they assess their students, and just some good tips and practices for creating rubrics and assessing projects. My next one would be PAAE and NAAE. So I was able to participate in these virtually this year, but I hope in the future that these professional development opportunities would be something that I could participate in the future. And my third professional development is the ABMA Animal Welfare Assessment Contest. So in this contest, we learned about animal welfare issues currently in the industry and how to assess different farms and different animal industries so that we could better their welfare and make sure that we are giving back to them as much as they are giving to us. So some work experiences. I helped my dad coordinate birthdays at his elementary school. So this just involved reaching out to local community members and getting them involved in the school and set up for Earth Day. And so this past summer, I was a Penn State Book Fair summer camp aide, and there I learned the classroom management skills and just how to interact with students in a professional manner, but also kind of creating those connections with them where they feel safe to kind of have fun and learn. And lastly, I worked at Valley Dog for like 3 years, and although this work experience isn't really directly education related, I just learned a lot of great work skills like how to be organized, how to work in a good team environment, and how just to be like professional and organized in my work environment. So for diverse learners, the following are just ways I kind of learned how to include those diverse learners into my instructional material and make sure that they feel safe and comfortable in their environment. So I participated in the Inquiry Institute, which was a workshop we did in our one agricultural education class. And in the Inquiry Institute, we kind of learned how to create an environment where students feel like they are in control of their learning and that they could ask questions and raise those questions where they are directly leading their learning. And then I also participated in a culture responsive teaching workshop, which is also part of AE 412. And this just opened my eyes to being culturally aware of your students and just recognizing the backgrounds they come from prior to coming into school and just making sure that I remain aware of my students' individual backgrounds and incorporating their lives into my instructional material. And lastly, this all just ties into individualized instruction. So being aware of my students' needs and making sure that when I'm teaching to them, if someone has an accommodation or anything like that, I am accommodating my learners in my classroom. So how am I prepared to maximize my student teaching internship opportunity at Ole Valley? I have created a little video here to kind of showcase the awesome facilities at Ole Valley that I'd like to show you guys.
Ole Valley's Ag Ed program consists of 120 students and is run by Mrs. Rice and Mr. Deischer. Ole covers a wide array of content areas as they have a general agriculture zip code, but they tend to focus more on science-based techniques rather than production.
To highlight a few of the facilities, let's start with the grow room, which is used for aquaponics and hydroponics for the plant science classes. Here's a video of the grow room that I'll hopefully be able to utilize when I student teach in the spring. The next facility is Ole's greenhouse, where students learn how to manage, grow, take care of, and sell flowers and vegetables. There are also raised beds at the school used to grow vegetables that the food science students use to process and can food. Here's a picture of what their outdoor facilities look like as a whole. The next few pictures show Ole's main lab room and some of the awesome equipment that students get to use daily. The last facility I'm going to highlight is the vet tech room, used by students to simulate a veterinary setting where they could take animal vitals, groom them, and other various opportunities. During my student teaching experience, I will be teaching many different courses and units that I'm excited to jump into.
My first course will be Ag Environmental Science, where I'll be teaching units on land use and soils, food and agriculture, and wildlife. I will also be teaching about GMOs in the Animal and Plant Biotech course. My next class is Animal Science, where I'll be teaching 2 units related to reproduction. The next one is Plant Science, where I'll be teaching units on greenhouse management, floriculture, and agronomy. I'll also be teaching parliamentary procedure in Oli's Ag Business class and protein and microbiology in food science. Lastly, I will be student teaching in the middle school and teaching 2 introductory units on plant and animal science.
Their FFA program consists of 9 chapter officers and around 60 active members who all participate in fall and spring CDE competitions. A few of the CDEs they participate in are milk quality and products, landscaping nursery, aquatics, dairy and horse judging, wildlife, and food science.
Okay, so I hope you guys got a glimpse into what Ole Valley's agriculture education program looks like. Getting to see these pictures and videos is definitely a lot better than me trying to tell you guys about it verbally. But I'm super excited to get involved in this awesome program. Like I said, I'm not super, I don't come from a super strong ag background, so getting involved in this really strong ag program with Mrs. Rice, I'm really excited to learn a lot from her and to kind of dive into those more science-based classes.
Ole Valley's Ag.
So the key strengths I pulled away from Ole Valley are science-based instruction. So Mr. Deisher and Mrs. Rice focus a lot on labs and experiments in a science-based manner rather than production. And I'm super excited about that because I love biology and microbiology. So I'm super excited to take advantage of those opportunities and to teach students some of those experiments. Their FFA chapter is also awesome. They're super, super involved in their community. They participate a lot in the different fairs with the setting up and creating stands and stuff to kind of educate people about what their FFA program is doing in the community. And they also have a really strong CDE and LDE component where those students practice in their instructional time for those competitions. And yeah, they love competing and they always do amazing in those competitions. A few key events throughout the year that Ole participates in that hopefully I will be able to get a glimpse of during my student teaching experience is the PA Farm Show, the Berks County Creative Interview, and then they also do the Public Speaking CBE, National FFA Week. They do a lot of line dancing events, which I've never been to one, so that's super exciting. I'm probably gonna make a fool of myself, but we'll see. They do an annual Ole Valley FFA banquet. They do a plant fair in the springtime, and they have the Ole Valley Food Truck Festival at the end of the year. So the courses I'm going to be teaching during my student teaching experience that I kind of covered in that video are Ag Environmental Science. I'm teaching a case course on animal and plant biotechnology, animal science, plant science, ag business, exploratory agricultural science, which is that 8th grade course in the middle school, and food science. This is my kind of course of study. I'll break it down for you guys. I have it broken down by month and then by class, and you can kind of see like during like the middle of my student teaching experience is when I'm going to be teaching the most classes. So those are the different units I'm going to be teaching in each course. I have 14 different ones, and so yeah, that's just kind of my schedule at a glance for you guys. So for me personally, my organizational system for my instructional materials will be my unit plans, which I have completed, and my lesson plans, which I will work towards during my student teaching experience, and getting some ideas from Mrs. Rice and Mr. Deisher about what they do in their classes will also help me kind of write those lesson plans. They use Schoology for their like grading system and posting assignments. Microsoft Teams is the space I will be using to kind of update my professors and to keep track of my different schedules. And I also have a personal planner that I always use to write down my schedule and just plan some stuff out. So some of my strengths that, this might have been the most difficult slide for me to make, but some of my strengths are that I'm organized. I love planning stuff and kind of doing the behind the scenes stuff for everything. So like making those unit plans and stuff is actually kind of fun for me. and just getting everything organized. Problem solving skills. So when I'm faced with a problem, I like to think that I kind of could take a step back and kind of just assess the situation and see different types of ways I could go about it and just kind of solve the problem. And my third one is that I'm a perfectionist, and I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing because some of the times I might get a little too into detail about stuff, but it does help me in the end because I always make sure I'm kind of prepared for everything and just staying organized so that when I do student teach, I am being the best teacher I could be for those students. So these are the 3 goals I identified for when I'm at Woolly Valley in the spring. My first one is to become more flexible and adaptable to changes. So a lot of the times I get stuck in the routine of things and I kind of like to stay into my little bubble of like, this is what I'm doing, and if anything changes, like I'm gonna freak out. So just working on that mindset of being like, okay, like I can work through this and be more adaptable to the different changes, especially in the school setting. So if something comes up, just making sure that like, okay, I can work through this. My second one is forming personal relationships. So I really wanted to make a strong connection with Mrs. Rice and Mr. Deitcher so that I could rely on them after I'm done student teaching at Woolly Valley. And then also creating those connections with my students so that I'm kind of just like learning from them and making sure that I'm including them in their learning experience as much as possible. And my third one is to gain the content knowledge and confidence that I need to be a good teacher. So the content knowledge for me, I kind of am lacking from not having that experience in high school, but just kind of diving myself into the material and making sure I'm learning as much as possible alongside my students will hopefully give me that confidence I need to be a better teacher. So I'd like to say thank you to all the faculty and staff that have helped me along the way, and to my family and friends who have always supported me. And lastly, to my amazing cohort members who have seriously encouraged me so much to just stay strong. And I hope I could say that I did the same for them throughout this whole experience. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to my presentation. And does anyone have any questions?
So again, we will now entertain questions. Jess will be helping us monitor the chat of both Zoom and Facebook for those questions that we have. Lauren, I'll get us started. Excellent presentation. You did a fantastic job. You illustrated one of the points that the paradoxes that we talk about in 311 quite a bit, which is that the FFA in particular should be a student-led organization, and that you should avoid that Superman, Superwoman syndrome as an FFA advisor to do everything. But we also talk a lot about the paradox is that good chapters are ran by good leaders and good teachers of agriculture. And so when the dust settles and Miss McHenry is a leader of her own program, how do you strike that balance between providing really good, sound, strong leadership as an ag teacher, but letting the FFA being a student-led organization?
Yeah, I think just kind of creating that relationship with the student leaders in the chapter and just kind of reminding them that I am always there for them. So giving them that space and opportunity to meet with me whenever, whether that's after school or in school, and just being there for them as an advisor, but reminding them that this is their chapter and that these are their opportunities that they can take advantage of. So just like kind of making sure that they're aware of all their opportunities, but giving them that like autonomy and choice in their education and in the chapter, I think will hopefully make that balance between advising them, but then also letting them run the chapter.
Thank you.
We have one question. Riley says, Justin and I are here. We love you. How are you going to ensure that you are making time for yourself for student teaching?
Thank you.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Lauren, can you repeat the questions for the online audience so that they can hear those?
Yeah. So Riley asked me how I'm going to make sure that I'm making time for myself during my student teaching experience. So I think that will kind of stem off of just using Mrs. Rice as a role model kind of and seeing how she goes about that. So seeing what she does in the classroom so that she doesn't have to work too much outside of the classroom. So just like adopting her work ethic maybe and just figuring out my own work ethic so that I'm getting work done in a space and environment where I feel like I can. And then kind of I get to come home and be like, okay, like this is where I could chill out for a little bit and get prepared to teach the next day.
Lauren,
Thank you very much for your presentation. Extremely comprehensive, very complete, very impressed.
Thank you.
Quite frankly, it's my opinion that you're one of the best instructional designers that we have in the entire cohort for what you submitted as lesson plans for completeness.
Thank you.
And so it was a pleasure to see you pull those items together. I do have a few questions that I'm hoping that we'll have the opportunity to ask you, so I'm really curious about. One is a chance for you to flex your comprehension. So it's a content-based question. And that's a lot for you in your own words to explain the relationship between the domains of learning and modalities of learning.
Okay, so the different modalities of learning are kind of like the roads you take to reach the domain. So teaching, whether that is they're using their hands or they're thinking cognitively to problem solve, is kind of the different ways that they could learn. And then reaching those different domains of higher thinking, I think is kind of that relationship there between the two.
I like it. Do you mind helping our audience out by reminding them of what the 3 domains of learning are?
Cognitive, psychomotor, and something with like emotions.
That's correct. Affective. Well done. Could you please remind the audience of the 3 modalities of learning that we travel through those domains with?
Kinesthetic, which is like moving, visual, and auditory.
Excellent. I knew
Sorry.
you knew those. That's awesome. The next question is I kind of go through, then I'll pause for a moment before I come back to my last 2. Is I want you to speak because I do believe that every single one of our candidates plays a unique role in forming what a cohort is. The concept and the idea that together we are stronger. And I would like for you to speak to your contribution to improving the members of PSU Ag 22 over the course of the past 15 to 30 weeks, in fact, of 2021.
Yeah, so I guess I've been like a little MIA with some of the events and like kind of like some of the stuff that people have gone closer with, but I think just being there for anyone, like I love talking to every single one in the cohort. So even if it's just sitting early in class and just being like, hey, like how are you? And like, do you need help with anything? Or just talking to anyone and just making sure we're all like kind of on the same page. And if anyone ever needed any help, I kind of was just always there if they needed to. And just like forming those personal connections where like I feel comfortable to like text a few of them and be like, hey, like this is what's going on, and just like making sure I'm a resource for them because they are all resources for me.
Thank you.
Jess, what you got from the online crowd?
So Brandon says, great job, Lauren. While you do not personally have an FFA or SAE background, how will you implement SAE in your future classroom for your students, especially when you think about new SAE for all opportunities?
Yeah. Okay. So Brandon, right? Actually,
Please.
Brandon asked how, since I don't really have that background with SAE and FFA, how I'm going to incorporate SAEs into my future ag program. So supervised agricultural experiences, I think just making students aware that while it might be a lot of work, the experiential opportunities that they're getting out of it are great, and just kind of maybe during my courses, including an SAE component in my grading, so that it's almost a requirement for students so that they are getting aware of SAEs and doing that foundational SAE to start out. And if they want to continue with it, then they can. So just making sure that the students are aware of what an SAE is and the great opportunities that they have.
So Lauren, I'm
Yeah.
going to try to not let the fact that you do not appear to be in love with SketchUp get in the way of our future together here. But you did an excellent job on your facility design, and it truly was the best that I've seen out of the cohort thus far. So you should be super proud of that. But I'm curious, and don't get me wrong, SketchUp is agitating.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, as you were doing the wonderful job on that facility design, did you have any ideas as other content areas in agriculture that you could apply digital 3D drawing with students in, such as animal science, plant science,
Yeah.
or any of the sort?
So when I went to Ole Valley for my life knowledge lesson, they have like an anatomy table, and it kind of pulls up the anatomy where you break it down to like the digestive system and like the nervous system and stuff. So I think maybe being able to use SketchUp to kind of model different like animals and stuff in a way that students can break it down and see the connection between those different like systems, like animal systems. I think that'd be pretty cool. It might be really difficult to do, but yeah, I think students would actually have fun getting to like visually see the connection between that stuff and like the breakdown.
My second year of teaching, I had a freshman student who was not very good at public speaking. He was incredibly shy. And I did not do a good job working with this.
Yeah.
Get them to the point of being able to deliver the creed in front of the class. And I still think about it to this day. I still feel bad. What advice would you have for me as an educator the next time I work with a little student that's going to give the creed to better help serve them?
I think for me, I would take it from the standpoint of experience and telling that student that they're like should focus on the growth mindset of like this is an experience for you to get better as an individual, and just reminding them that they're not the only ones in that situation. And if you have that own personal experience as an educator, tell them and like be like, hey, like this used to happen to me too, and like I still struggle with this a little bit. So kind of like getting down on that one-on-one level with the student and just like being like, hey, like everyone kind of experiences this, or just reminding them that they're bettering themselves by being able to work on something that they struggle with.
Okay, Lacey asks, she says, awesome job, Lauren. What course are you most nervous about teaching and how will you overcome that?
Okay. Lacey asked, what course am I most nervous about teaching and how will I overcome that? So I think the course that when I was making my unit plans and kind of preparing for it, the course that kind of scared me the most is the Ag Business. I'm teaching only one unit in that, but it is parliamentary procedure. And so I am completely unfamiliar with that. So when I was writing the unit plan, I definitely relied on Mr. Nate Moyer, who was a great resource for me because he's super experienced in that field. But I definitely think not having that experience in Parley Pro or even taking a course on it, I'm going to struggle with it. So hopefully Mrs. Rice will be able to kind of guide me through that. And after my student teaching experience, I'll be able to confidently be like, okay, this is what Parley Pro is, and this is how you teach it.
You know, Lauren, as you prepare to teach parliamentary procedure, I think I can provide a hotline to you for 24/7 access for technical assistance.
Okay.
You simply need to email foster@psu.edu
Okay.
to answer those concerns and work through it. And I mean that very sincerely.
Okay.
One thing as we go forward as teacher candidates, for all of our teacher candidates, we've talked about that content in classroom can be a significant insecurity. I believe every ag teacher I've ever worked with or met at some point battles imposter syndrome of worrying they don't know enough. The key, the great ag teachers have the capacity to ask for help and know who to ask. And so that specific area of parliamentary procedure, you have a direct hotline
Okay.
for someone that can answer any question that you ask.
Thank
on
you.
the content. I have 2 questions left for me, and then I will stop.
Okay.
And I'm yielding my question to Dr. Foster because of that.
Okay.
The word legacy gets thrown around a lot. Impact mark. You have 15 weeks that you personally will be a guest, a member of the Ole community of the students, faculty, colleagues, and fellow educators. I am curious to what legacy you wish to leave as you complete your internship at the end of April and beginning of May.
So I think from the student standpoint of view, just thinking like I don't know, hopefully forming those connections with students that they will kind of remember me as an impactful teacher with like hands-on experience, because that is definitely what I'm most excited for, is to actually dive into those experiments and labs with students so that they're getting those authentic experiences. So hopefully leaving that legacy behind of I was able to provide authentic experiences to those students so that even when they're like 10 years later and they're in their work environment and they're kind of being exposed back to, oh, I remember doing this in high school and this is how I could accomplish this. And maybe just like kind of remembering like, oh, that was pretty cool. Like my student teacher taught me that. So hopefully I would leave a legacy behind like that.
So Lauren,
Yeah.
great presentation.
Thank you.
I appreciate your enthusiasm. You can totally see it as you were talking about your future program and it only, like you, I didn't come from an agricultural background either, didn't go through courses. And I work with recruitment. So what would you recommend that, to tell other students that do not have an agricultural background about majoring in ag education?
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm most excited about is to get exposed to those students who don't come from a strong ag background, because I could kind of relate to them on like a more one-on-one level, but just telling those students that there are so many opportunities, especially within the classroom. So if they want to major in agricultural education, there are so many different courses and units that they can teach that are completely like applicable to anything really. So just like making sure that they're aware of the very different opportunities that they could create in their own classroom environment, I think would be pretty cool. Because even though I didn't come from that ag background, there's definitely a lot of topics that I'm going to teach in the spring that like I'm super interested about and that I love learning about. So just kind of reminding them of the like huge scope that ag ed is.
May I ask a last question?
Yeah,
Sure.
you have mine.
Absolutely. So agriculture and education are dynamic, ever-changing disciplines and professions, both of them. How are you, as an agricultural educator, going to stay current and relevant?
Yeah, so I think that stems off of the idea of staying a connected educator. So learning from the different professionals who are currently in the field and just kind of using their resources, like even on the Facebook pages and stuff, a lot of the teachers will post lesson plans that are current and about current issues in the industry or events, and just being able to incorporate that into my classroom so that students are remaining aware of what is going on currently in the agricultural industry. And for me, just making sure that I'm working on my professional development as much as possible and attending those different workshops. And yeah, just working on myself as an individual in the educational field as much as possible.
Are there any mechanisms or organizations that can assist with that?
Yeah, definitely PAAE and NAAE are both organizations that I will remain a part of after graduation and will definitely take advantage of many opportunities that they have to offer to ag educators.
This will conclude the public portion of the presentation. We will continue here in a moment with Lauren for some other parts of the examination. We ask that you retire to 2:14 with their snacks and refreshments. Will you help me in joining and congratulating, Lauren one last time before she leaves? Thank you for your time.